Welcome to the Escape Podcast, Monster Month.
Hello, this is the Escape Podcast, your source for movies.
I'm Josh.
I'm Brandon. And today we'll be talking about
Dear Woman. It's episode 50.
the big 50. Can you believe it's been 50 episodes? It only feels like I've been around for 30 of them.
Feels like it's taken forever to get to 50. After 2 years, it's kind of sad that we only have 50.
It's not that bad. It's about 2 a month.
All right. So what do we want to talk about first?
Well, this is a Monster Month episode, so we're going to talk about some monster stuff.
Are we still on that?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, we're way behind. I don't think we're going to get to the 10 that we predicted when we recorded.
No, not 10. I do
months ago.
Yeah, I think we can get 4 out, though.
Let's see. So you just watched a monster movie. Tell me about the monster movie that you watched.
Of sorts. I've been slowly getting caught up on a lot of movies that I've been behind on, and one of them is Solo, and then I also did Fallen Kingdom, but I'm going to talk about Jurassic World.
One was scarier.
Scarier?
Mm-hmm.
I guess Jurassic World? It's very sloppy and thrown together. You know, the last one, I know you didn't like it, but it did well, and it feels like they just were like, we got to have something. So it made a lot of it doesn't make sense. We were kind of talking about this the other day where
they're trying to save the dinosaurs because of the volcano.
And they want to like remove a bunch of dinosaurs and put them on a new island to become a dinosaur sanctuary. It doesn't make sense. There's already a second island that was established in part 2 and 3 that there's a site B. What's that?
And in the books.
Right. Yeah. There's already a site B. So at most you would need to do, well, if they really want to save those dinosaurs, they could just relocate them to Site B. They didn't really need to make a third island of dinosaurs. I don't know. It was just silly. And I was telling you that they're, you know, for depending on who knows about it or whatever, there's this little girl in the movie, and I actually found what was going on with her a little more interesting than I did all the dinosaurs, which seems.
Well, don't give it away in case anybody hasn't seen it yet.
No, I'm not going to give it away. That little mystery surrounding her was more intriguing than the actual movie.
Well,
it's so ridiculous.
The second half of the movie becomes like a haunted house movie, doesn't it? In essence, like essentially it becomes a haunted house.
Yeah,
movie.
I mean, it's kind of, I guess, interesting to see dinosaurs in a different location. Like typically you think of dinosaurs, you think of like a jungle or a swamp or even a desert, perhaps. Like a lot of those old like 60s and 70s, Planet of the Dinosaurs, it was dinosaurs in like desert. And it's kind of interesting to see dinosaurs in a mansion. My friend Tim had this VR thing. He had me try it, and one of the things was it looks like you're in a mansion, like this hallway, and you hear like this rumbling, and then and it makes no sense, but around the corner comes the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and he's walking down the hall, and it's made to look like he gets like right in your face. And there's another one where you're in this big open room of a mansion, and there's like a brontosaurus or brachiosaurus, whatever, in the room. And this was years before the Fallen Kingdom movie. So it's like, it's weird to see them in a home, but it's different, I guess. But that's about the highest praise I can give it. Is
so
there was a lot of like pushing of feminism. It was just very stupid. There's, this one girl, and the military guy just says like, oh, like you need to be careful, like, or something. It's dangerous. Takes it real personal, and she's like giving him this, I don't know, this little lecture. It was just overkill, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff. The comic relief guy is just way too, just screaming the whole time, and he's putting on hand sanitizer every 5 seconds, and I don't know. It doesn't even make sense why he would even need to be there. Like at least. Because he's never even been on the island. Like, wouldn't it make more sense to get that guy from the last movie? His name is Jake something. I know he's in New Girl. I want to say his name's Jake Johnson, but I could be totally wrong on that.
Gyllenhaal?
Sure. It would make more sense that he would come back, or something to operate the controls in this, room on the island. Why did this, I don't know. It's dumb.
So I don't know. I don't feel like they know how to write characters anymore. Like everybody just seems so unrealistic anymore. Like if you wanted to say there is comic relief, it'd be like the lawyer and Jeff Goldblum's character in the first one, but they weren't like silly goofballs.
Okay, yeah, you just reminded me. Jeff Goldblum, it was so pointless for him to even be there. He's literally, you saw his entire scene in the trailer if you watched it. There was really no point in it, and yeah, that's really about all I can say. It was just kind of a waste of time, and
Well, they didn't have any character acting like a buffoon the whole time. Maybe Nedry, but still, like he seemed like he was that character. He didn't seem like he was just doing a shtick to make the audience laugh.
And I ever took him as a buffoon. He was kind of a slob, but like,
I mean, he was goofy, but like he wasn't unrealistically goofy.
To me, it's done. You know, I really got nothing more to say about it. I'm definitely glad I didn't go to a movie theater and see it.
So I guess I kind of saw a monster movie in a way too recently. I went to go see Venom.
Okay.
And I played
I'm
off
guessing
like
yours was probably a little better than mine.
Oh, it was all right. It played off kind of like a sci-fi monster movie.
Yeah. I know it's not done well, at least not with critics. I heard it has a better audience approval.
I haven't watched any reviews on it. I don't know what anybody's saying about it.
I haven't watched any reviews either. I just seen that critics are not talking of it favorably, but audience seems to like it better.
The CG was all right. Can't really complain about it that much. The acting was okay for the most part. The story, I don't know. The climax didn't seem very climactic. The bad guy was very two-dimensional. He may as well have been a log.
How was Tom Hardy's accent?
He was fine. He's always good.
I don't know. I felt like from what I saw in the trailer, his accent just didn't sound. It just sounded kind of over the top to me, but that could be.
I didn't really have any problems with him. It's interesting, like the dynamic between him and the organism that he was living with. Like it's a voice in his head almost most of the time. So that was kind of cool to see. It was cool to see just like how tough Venom actually is, but then just the bad guy was really the worst part. Like, and the storyline was it just seems so small. But not small, and like small isn't necessarily bad, but it just when I got to the end, I'm like, this is it. This is the last fight. It didn't seem right. There's something about it. But the bad guy, like, he's supposed to be a young, rich, smart entrepreneur. He has this big business he built. He's like the head of this pharmaceutical company, but he also has his own space program, right? So you think somebody like, Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or whatever, one of these like huge moguls. So in the movie, like he starts off like, okay, I can see how this guy is like this. That's cool. But then as it goes, like he's just basically like Boris and Natasha, or evil bad guy, where no decision he makes any sense. It's obvious he doesn't actually think about anything. So, okay, this guy's supposed to be so successful, but he's that stupid too.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was all right.
But there's no connection with Spider-Man, right?
Not yet. They mentioned what's the newspaper that Spider-Man works at? The
Daily Bugle.
The Daily Bugle.
Correct.
They mentioned a newspaper in New York, or a news company in New York called the Daily something, but it wasn't Daily Bugle, I don't think. I think they said like Daily Planet or something.
Daily Planet Superman.
Yeah, they said something weird. Daily World. I don't know what it was. It was kind of weird that they didn't mention it like by name. I don't know. Maybe they did, and I got confused, but it seemed to me like they said something else.
Okay.
So anyway, it might have a connection with Spider-Man later on. Right now, they're not exactly allowed to do it. I don't know. The whole thing between them and Marvel is really weird.
Well, I had heard even in The Amazing Spider-Man, which was obviously before Spider-Man was officially in the MCU, they talked about putting Stark Tower in the background when they show like a wide shot of New York.
I think I remember hearing something about that. I know there's something because Tony Stark sold his tower to somebody, but we don't know who yet. So people are, in the Spider-Man movie. That's why they were moving everything out of Stark Tower and taking it to the Avengers place when the Vulture goes to rob the plane. That's what they were doing.
I don't remember that part.
So there's ideas on who could have bought that tower, and the two leading ones I've heard is either they're setting it up for Fantastic Four for later, or it's going to be like Osborn.
Okay. Have you seen the newest Fantastic Four?
I saw part of it on TV.
I mean, I've heard nothing but bad about it. I was just curious.
Oh, yeah. Just a little bit I saw was stupid.
Okay. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about the second trailer for Glass.
Also known as Split 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Any thoughts on that?
It's a neat idea. I'm going to have to see it to really make an opinion on it.
I mean, are you interested in seeing it?
Yeah, Split was all right, and I liked
Okay.
Unbreakable a lot. Unbreakable is a lot better than I remembered it because I went back and watched it not too long ago.
Okay.
But I don't know. They might be jumping the shark a little.
You know, I really liked Split. I like that it really wasn't this kind of X-Men movie until the very end. It was more just about, you know, a psychopath with these kidnapped girls and all that. You know, later it becomes a little far-fetched, but it didn't bother me. I liked Unbreakable as well, but I think I actually like Split a little more. I just found that I think it was almost like a bottle episode of a TV show. I don't know. I just thought it was more interesting about, you know, using your enemy at certain times can almost be your ally because he kept rotating between, you know, different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the new movie goes, I do think it looks interesting. I didn't really care for how they had him like growling like an animal. They did it like 3 or 4 times. I counted in the trailer. Like he actually like lets out like a lion type roar.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a little too much, but I liked the idea that in a way it's kind of like X-Men, which is ironic because James McAvoy is the newest Professor X, but it's kind of like a tame version of X-Men to a degree. You know, X-Men, it's a little more extreme type of powers, and I'm not saying this isn't far-fetched, but like it seems a little more toned down, and I thought it was interesting, the whole concept of, you know, 2 villains teaming up, whatever his plan actually is. I'm not even sure. I got the feeling also that the woman in the trailer, I think she's going to be something.
I'm wondering if what's her name, like Taylor Anya Joy?
I actually don't recognize her. The actress?
The girl from Split.
You talking about the one that's narrating the trailer?
No.
Oh, who
The
you
girl
talking
from
about?
Split.
Oh, I don't know her name either. What about her though?
I'm feeling like she might end up being something, is what I was thinking. But the trailers look a little weird to me. Like she's talking about, I specialize in people that think they're superheroes. Like, oh, that's a specialty. And then I don't understand why is. I guess we'll find out. Why?
Well, I'm wondering if they're going to be like saying that there have been cases like this before. It's just not well documented or
she
well
just
known
didn't
to
really
the public.
seem like a psychologist to me, or psychiatrist, whatever one.
No, I took it. She looked like she was torturing them. She was at one point, they show Bruce Willis and it looks like he had just been dumped out of a tank of water because he's all soaking wet, and obviously water was his weakness. And then there's a part where she basically just is trying to get to the beast. They somehow find out that like strobing this flashing light on him like takes him through personalities, and they were just basically like trying to
It looked
get
like
him to the beast.
It looked like she was like a hypnotist trick. Like every time I do this, you're gonna switch personalities.
Yeah, it could be, but regardless, it felt like they were just almost trying to figure out how they both work.
But didn't she say like she was trying to help them because they have some
she's
kind of
saying
psychosis.
that, but I don't believe her. I think I almost take it as more like the whole like super soldier thing. I'm not saying it's exactly going to be it, but basically he's really strong. Obviously the beast is incredibly strong. Like I almost just wondered if they're trying to figure out how that works or something. I don't know. Really, I guess
when they show him running in the trailer on all fours.
Yes,
like Beast from the X-Men movies.
I also wasn't really quite sure if that's going to look silly, and I'm almost thinking they're going to do it too much. That's the one thing I actually liked about Split is when he becomes the beast, he's just running really fast, and he's like, you know, climbing over fences and walls really quick. Like he's actually, until he climbs the wall itself later, he's not doing anything crazy like running around on 4 legs and growling at people and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's going to be pretty interesting. But really, Samuel L. Jackson's character, is it what's his name in the movie?
Mr. Glass.
Yeah, but what's his actual name?
Jeremiah Glass.
Is that really it, or are you just making stuff up?
No, I don't know. I can't remember his actual
Okay,
name.
Samuel L. Jackson's character though, he really doesn't have a superpower. He's just extremely intelligent.
Well, it sounds like they're kind of giving him one. I don't remember him being like super intelligent in the first one. He wasn't dumb.
Well, yeah, but he was a mastermind, I guess you might say, and really he almost has more of the super weakness. His bones are incredibly brittle. Did you wonder why he's still in a wheelchair? Is it like supposed to be that when he fell in Unbreakable that his bones shattered to such a degree that he basically they would never healed right or something.
I don't know.
Because I found it funny he was still technically in a wheelchair.
Thanos kicked him.
Well, anyway, I don't know. I'm interested. Like I said, certain things looked a little silly, like having him growl and all that stuff, but I'm very interested.
All right. Speaking of silly, you ready for the main event?
I am.
All right. Well, first I wanted to bring up, like, last time we talked about your trip into Freddy's nightmares as Batman.
Yes.
And you told the story about Jason sitting on your corner.
Not my corner, but yeah, it was a route I took to go home from work.
So some of your favorite Halloween costumes, what would those be?
I actually always did, well, not always, I should say, but there was quite a few years in a row I did werewolf.
Really?
I had this one mask and I loved it so much I just kind of kept doing it for a few years in a row.
It was a werewolf mask.
Yeah.
What did it look like? Did it have a real long snout? Was it?
Yeah, it was the longer snout, and then I would wear like I had a shirt and pants, and I had like holes in them, and I had like somehow I got this like fake fur, and I was trying to rig it so that it looked like, as I morphed, clothes ripped, and you could see fur coming out of the holes.
And you just let your chest hair fly out?
I was a kid, so no, not yet.
So you didn't have as much?
Right, exactly.
What other costumes did you like?
I mean, that's the one that sticks out the most. I remember one time I was a Ninja Turtle. I don't remember a whole lot of them, actually. I did the Joker once. That was once I was older.
Some of the... I'm trying to remember.
It's funny. I just realized I was Batman and Joker.
I was... I think one of my first costumes was Superman.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I've been a pirate. I had a mask that I really liked, too. It was like a zombie mask. One of the ones I remember the most is Alfalfa. My mom dressed me like Alfalfa from the Little Rascals.
Right.
One of the things that kind of sucks living in Michigan, especially, is when you live in some of these more northern states, Halloween can really suck because you got to cover up your costume with a jacket.
There was a friend of mine. He was a ninja. So he had like this ninja outfit and whatever. But like you said, it was colder. I was the werewolf. So he, for, like ninjas, how a lot of times in like cartoons and stuff, they have like the mask with little, eyes, they're going all stealth. So for that, he actually just used a winter ski mask type thing. But everything else was a ninja, but it happened to be really cold that Halloween. So he had to put on a winter coat over it. And I think he might have even been wearing winter gloves. So we go to this one house, and I remember the guy opens the door and he goes, "All right, let's see what we got here. A werewolf and someone dressed for the winter." and my brain goes, "I'm a ninja."
That's hilarious. All right. So Dear Woman, we've mentioned this one a couple of times in the past.
Yeah. Well, both werewolf movies. We did it. Yeah. Well, you mentioned it for the American Werewolf in London, then you mentioned it again for the Howling.
Yep. So we mentioned it enough. We might as well do it. It was actually a made-for-TV movie for a show on Showtime called Masters of Horror.
Yep.
And
Season 1, Episode 7. Mm-hmm. I never even heard of that until you mentioned it. I mentioned it to a guy that I work with, and he said that he thought all those were terrible.
A lot of them are. There's a few that are good, though.
Okay.
This one actually happens to be my favorite one out of the series. It was also written and directed by John Landis. Actually, it was written by Max Landis, his son.
Right.
Masters of Horror is an American anthology television series created by director Mick Garris for the Showtime cable network.
Tell me more.
There were 2 seasons. They opted out of a 3rd season. And
low ratings or what?
I'm not sure exactly what it was, but there was another show that was on NBC in 2008 that was kind of like the 3rd season. It was a lot of the same people, and it was a show called Fear Itself, which I have never seen.
Okay.
So Dear Woman is the 7th episode of the 1st season. It was originally aired on December 9th, 2005.
Okay.
So John Landis, you know him from Animal House, Blues Brothers, American Werewolf.
True that.
Twilight Zone, the movie. We've talked about that before, too.
Yeah, his was the one with the infamous helicopter accident, correct?
Yes. You might also know him from The Muppets Take Manhattan, Spies Like Us, Clue, Three Amigos, Coming to America, Darkman, and Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Okay. Wait, he did Clue the movie?
That's what I wrote.
Okay.
Let me Let me Google it real quick. Clue. Okay, he wrote the story for Clue. He was one of the writers, but he did not direct.
All right. Carry on, my wayward son.
So yeah, he's known for doing a bunch of like comedy stuff as well as a little bit of horror in there.
Right.
His son Max Landis was involved with Chronicle, Me, Him, Her, American Ultra, Victor Frankenstein. Have you seen any of those? Chronicle, Me, Him, Her, American Ultra, Victor Frankenstein, Mr. Bright, which is on Netflix. That was a Will Smith movie.
Okay, I've seen Bright. I've seen Chronicle. That was the one with the 3 guys with superpowers, right?
I feel like it was like a handheld camera movie,
Right, but they had superpowers in it.
Something like that, like some young teenage boys, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't
I've
it?
seen. Yeah, I think that's the one where I can't remember if it's like a meteor or something, but they all have the same powers.
The
But
same
yeah, I've
powers?
seen. Yeah, because they all were around this meteor or something. I can't remember if it was a meteor. It was something like that, and it gave them all 3 the same powers. They could. It was telekinesis, flight, strength, and maybe one more. But anyway, yeah, I've seen Chronicle. I've seen Bright. What was the other one you said?
Me, Him, Her, American Ultra. Those are some newer movies. Victor
I've
Frankenstein.
heard of American Ultra. I have never heard of Me, Him, Her. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, I haven't watched too much of his stuff. He seems like an interesting guy, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, he's kind of strange. I know he's into wrestling, I think.
Yeah, he made a wrestling video. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Wrestling Isn't Wrestling, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so he wrote this story. John Landis also has a credit for writing, but it's because he told Max to write a seduction scene for Dear Woman, and when Max refused, he said, "If you don't do it, I will, and I'll put myself as a writing credit." So that's how that happened.
Because he wanted a seduction scene?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's how that happened. Max Landis is also supposedly working on a remake of American Werewolf in London.
I'd heard that, or maybe that was from you. Maybe you mentioned that when we did American Werewolf in London.
When we did it,
Yeah.
So here's the synopsis for Dear Woman.
Tell me about it.
A harried, burned-out cop believes that a recent string of murders prove that the murderer might be a deer-like creature in the form of a beautiful woman, right from local Native American folklore legend.
Okay.
Sounds
All right.
amazing, doesn't it?
It does.
Trivia. While talking to his superiors, the main character speaks about a creature who terrorized London in 1981 and was shot in Piccadilly Circus. This is a very obvious reference to John Landis's
Jurassic
1981
Park?
film, Jurassic Park in London,
Yeah.
the world. Yes. In the Indian casino, there is a mention of Murph and the Magic Tones playing. That's a reference to Blues Brothers, another John Landis film.
Ah.
Part of the story takes place in the River Rock Casino Resort. In many shows like CSI, a named casino is usually a fictitious one, but this is a real casino. The River Rock Casino Resort in Richmond, Canada. That's a place, I guess. What confuses some viewers is that there is another casino named River Rock Casino Resort in Geyserville, California. Geyserville. That's it. Geyserville.
Okay.
That's it. Not a lot of trivia for this one. So, your first time seeing this movie, do you recognize the main actor at all?
He does look mildly familiar. In fact, I was going to say he kind of reminds me of Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul. Like, not identical, but there's a little bit of resemblance, at least in my head.
I didn't think about it too much when I was watching it, but now that you mention it, yeah.
Why? Who is he?
Brian Benben.
Okay, and what is he from?
He is best known for his role as Martin Tupper in the HBO comedy television series Dream On, which ran from 1990 to 1996. Also known as Dr. Sheldon Wallace on ABC medical drama Private Practice.
Okay.
If you had one word to describe this guy, what would you describe him as?
One word?
Not the character, but the actor.
Oh, short? I don't know what.
Yeah, yep, exactly. I looked up to see how tall he is. He is 5'6".
Wow.
So he's not incredibly short, but he's on the probably just under average.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So his character was a police detective who was relegated to animal attacks.
Yeah, did they say why?
Yes, it's because he accidentally shot and killed his partner.
That's right. Okay.
He told the whole story about how him and his partner, they went into this house from one from the back, one from the front, and then there was a crazy junkie who was coming at him. So he shot the junkie, but the bullet went through and hit his partner.
That's right.
And then some people suspected that he had killed his partner on purpose for some odd reason. And
yeah, they didn't build up any of that of why anyone would suspect that he had a grudge with his partner to do that, like to make it make sense, to make it somewhat plausible, you know.
Mm-hmm. And so he's dealing with issues with that.
Right.
It really got him down in the dumps, which, you know, naturally it would.
Yeah.
So because he was basically useless anymore, they stuck him on animal attacks, which like was nothing.
Right.
So he sat at his desk all day staring at a picture of his now ex-wife because his relationship crumbled because of that incident. Cop number 2, did you recognize him at all?
No, I did not.
His name is Anthony Griffith, not to be confused with Andy Griffith.
Mm-hmm.
He is a comedian, actor, and philanthropist.
Okay.
Born to a religious family in Chicago, Illinois, where he lived until he went to college in the 1980s. Anyway, he's like a comedian. I didn't realize that. I started looking it up, and he's had some mild success.
Okay.
He's only had a few acting roles, hasn't been too busy as far as being an actor goes. What did you think of his acting?
To be honest, I found pretty much everyone's acting to be pretty bad, but I think his was probably the worst.
I found his acting to be charming in a way.
Okay.
I didn't think it was necessarily bad. It was a little weird, but the more I watched it, the more I liked his character.
No, I mean, he was an all right guy, the character, but yeah, the acting was pretty bad. But then again, like I said, he wasn't alone in this movie for having bad acting.
And the third main actor of the film was Cynthia Mora. Do you know her at all?
Do not. At least not that I realize.
She's the actress that played the Deer Woman.
Right.
I had never seen her before or since. She was born on March 5th, 1982 in Brazil. So she's Brazilian, I believe.
Maybe. We'll look into it.
And in 2006, she was ranked number 68 on Maxim's Hot 100.
I kind of wondered, so the Deer Woman never speaks. And I was wondering if maybe it was because either A, she didn't speak English, or perhaps she didn't speak English very well, that maybe they just didn't have her speak.
I did wonder about that. I wondered if maybe she's a terrible actress, but she looks good, so they put her in the role. So she doesn't have to do anything but smile, really, and nod.
Right.
But then again, it also kind of fits the story.
Yeah, it does make her a little more mysterious and intriguing that she never actually speaks.
Yeah. And so the movie starts off with the deer attack. Go ahead and tell me what you were feeling about this movie. Let's start from the beginning.
Right away, so it's like a hick bar. And, there's the two trucker guys that one's got to use the bathroom. And right away, again, just really bad acting. So I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. I was thinking it was going to be a little more scarier, or at least trying to be scarier. Mm-hmm. I was not expecting it to be quite so silly. So yeah, he goes out to use the bathroom and, hears some commotion. And then you get this CGI truck door flying at the camera, which was probably one of the most expensive shots, I'm guessing, for the movie. So the body, it's all, I guess, trampled to death. But what I found funny is, like, it didn't even look like a human body anymore. Do you remember the pig lizard in Galaxy Quest?
Not really.
Here, I'll show you a picture.
I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Okay, exactly. So they were going to test the transporter, the digitizer, on Tim Allen's character. And there's like this creature they call the pig lizard that they tested on first. And when it comes up to the ship, it's basically all mutilated and it's like turned inside out in this big blob of flesh and muscle. And although not exactly, what I found funny was when they show what you do see of the body of the victim, like that's what it looks like. Like you don't see any clothes, anything that looks even remotely like a human body. It just looks like this big pile of clay or something that's,
Yeah, when they check inside of that semi truck to look, they don't even know what they're looking at. They're like, "What is this?"
Right.
Well, it's a body.
I was trying to understand like how like she would have to have basically broken every bone in his body to turn him into just like mush, like
a blob.
But yeah, like I said, I mean, it was very surprising to me how silly the movie was. I was thinking, the intro is kind of creepy, or at least trying to have like this creepy imagery.
Well, so I remember when I was talking about it the first time, you're like, "Deer Woman, what's that?"
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's too. I was thinking when you first told me about it, I was thinking there's actually going to be some actual like creature, like
Mhm.
half human, half, deer, or something
Mhm.
that maybe was going to be kind of actually creepy looking, but it ended up being like insanely silly. But yeah.
Yeah, so he can't figure it out. He's investigating. He's there at the bar trying to figure out what happened. His name is Detective Faraday.
Hmm.
That's the character played by Brian Benben.
Yeah.
And he gets taken off the case, and this other police officer shows up.
Yeah. I found it funny. The one police officer's name is Pukes.
Fuches.
Oh, I thought they were saying Pukes,
No.
which I thought was hilarious. Man, that's a bummer.
That's funny.
Because it sounds like they're saying "shut up, Pukes."
Found my notes. I had something written down on whatever.
On the artist formerly known as Pukes.
There we go.
Way to pull it out now, dummy.
So I liked. We skipped over this a little bit, but the credits, the way it opens, like with the Native American music, and it's showing like all these Native American legends and artwork. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked that.
No, yeah, I actually found the folklore kind of interesting in itself.
It's kind of neat. I can't think of too many movies or anything really where it's based all on like Native American legend.
Right, and the legend in a way it kind of reminds me of like mermaids or what do they say, sirens or whatever. A beautiful woman or something that lures men and kills them.
Yeah, it's similar to that in a way. Later on they have when they're at the casino, they have a Native American gentleman explain the legend of the deer woman to him, where like she would come from basically nowhere and lure men out to the woods and kill them. And they couldn't. They're like, why? And my favorite line of the movie is, why does everything have to have a why with you people? So there's no reason for it. There doesn't need to be a reason for it, which I think sums up like the silly story in the first place. Like, why does it have to have any reason? How do you stop her? You don't.
Why did it have to be with you people?
What's that supposed to mean?
Couldn't he have just said, why does everything have to have a reason?
What are you saying?
Racist. Have you ever watched Twin Peaks?
I have never watched Twin Peaks.
Something about this just a little bit kind of reminds me of Twin Peaks. It's a little bit of a stretch, but not only because the show is like this weird mess of really strange, silly, outlandish, dumb stuff, but there was this core, like, interesting story to it, and that's what it kind of reminds me of. Twin Peaks was a chore to watch for me. In fact, I didn't even finish it. I lost interest in it, but
I've heard a lot of people mention it, like it's interesting, a bunch of weird stuff going on. I guess it would have some similarities too. Like, wasn't there like an FBI guy that was investigating the disappearance of a woman or the murder of a woman?
Yeah. A woman's found murdered, and then it was kind of like, I guess, one of the earliest shows to do like where every episode is just building up onto this one storyline as opposed to every episode being a different thing. But I guess it was a big hit when it came out in the 90s, or it did pretty well. In a way that cartoon Gravity Falls kind of reminds me of a even sillier animated version of Twin Peaks, but that's a little off topic.
So he starts to speculate. He can't get this case off of his mind. He's drawing pictures while he's talking. They had the dog that killed the monkey.
Yeah, what was that all about? What was the point? Just to show how,
just to have
ridiculous
going on while he's thinking about the case.
Yeah.
And like you could tell it was obviously a taxidermied monkey. And there's no way that little tiny dog could kill the monkey. So that was kind of funny in a way.
Yeah, but it made more sense if the monkey killed the dog.
Right, but they had it in reverse because it's a comedy too.
Did you feel like a lot of the music seemed like just like stock music? Like just pre-recorded music for
It seems
something?
like the type of music that would show up on an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark or something like that.
Okay, I don't know. It just sounded very... It didn't sound like they had a composer. Yeah, it sounded like just music.
Although it kind of had that Native American feel to it at times.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it was real cheap. I'm sure they didn't have the biggest budget for a lot of these episodes.
So did John Landis have total control over this?
Yeah.
Okay. Early on, she kills a guy in his semi-truck.
Yeah, and he's thinking about that case. He's sitting there with the monkey versus the dog people.
Right.
And while he's talking to them, he's drawing the picture and realizes that that blob of a body, what was left of that guy's body, had hoof prints in it. So he goes down to the morgue or whatever it is, and he talks to Dana, who is the, what do they call those people?
Wow, it just Dang it.
She's doing the autopsy.
Yeah, not mortician. I just had it, and there you go. I lost it. Oh well.
Oh, Dana is the person doing the autopsy, and he's looking at the body with her, and they're talking about it, and they determine like it could have been an animal attack. And then it goes to the scene where he's laying in his bed at night thinking about it, and he comes up with a few different scenarios. You want to describe those?
Yeah. So basically, it is the cheapest looking. It looks like that, one of those deer head that you would find in like a log cabin, just on someone's head. And they made it really, really silly, even sillier than it already was.
Did you realize at first they were just like daydreams?
Maybe not the first one. There's 3 different scenarios, I believe. Yeah, he goes through. And I felt like they just went on way too long and they weren't funny.
What? Are you kidding me?
No, I am not kidding you. I think it would have been more effective.
The first one was a little weird, but like once you figure out what's going on, and they just keep getting funnier.
Really?
You don't think they were funny?
No. In fact, I thought it would have been better if they would have actually made it out to be like as if this is the next murder. You actually think it's really happening, and it doesn't come across silly, and then you find out that he's daydreaming it. Like, I don't know. It was just so ridiculous. No, I didn't think it was funny. Long and drug out was more what came to mind.
You are a weird person.
You're weird.
I don't know. I thought those were hilarious. To me, that's like the standout part of the movie.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so he envisions all these different ways in which it could have happened to the guy in the semi-truck. Like, what happened to this dude? One of them is like he brings a woman to a semi-truck and they're starting to get hot and heavy, and then a deer busts in and they start screaming. And then he's like, no, that's stupid. And then he thinks about another one, and it's like a deer man in like a lumberjack outfit. Mm-hmm. And he carries the woman off,
away. Yeah.
puts the truck door back on. And then another one was like they hear a noise, look out the window on this little tiny Bambi thing. And
yes.
That's when he decides to go to bed because he realizes he's just being silly.
I know I'm putting way too much thought in this, but when they do open the door of the semi, the door just falls off. And they make a point to say that somebody placed it up there. Yeah, it was kicked out from the inside, and it was placed to look, like it was still there. Why would she do that? I don't even understand the purpose why she would even waste the time to try to make it look like the door was still attached.
Why is there always a Y with you?
Probably because I'm white.
Yeah, no, I know it's putting way too much thought into it, but it just seems like more for dramatic effect just to have this door like, oh wow, look how strong, whatever did this is, seems kind of pointless.
So then he meets what becomes his new partner, basically.
Yes.
Anthony Griffith as Officer Jacob Reid. And he's an interesting guy. He hasn't been on the force for that long, I believe is what he said. Or at least not in that area.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he was new to that area or something.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't know the backstory of Faraday, but eventually he prods and finds out about him accidentally killing his old partner.
Right.
They seem like they get along pretty good. Like
yeah.
Sherlock Holmes and Watson type of relationship there almost.
Right.
I wouldn't say Dwight is as smart as Sherlock Holmes.
No, I know what you mean.
Any thoughts on them?
I have no thoughts about that.
Okay, Dave.
No, I agree. They seem to. I feel like Reid is pretty much what he needs at that time. He needs someone that's willing to be a little more. Reid is kind of the.
They balance each other out.
He balances him out a little bit. Seems like they work well together. Yeah, it's your I guess it's kind of a classic thing. The whole idea of like having two characters and then they kind of become this perfect fit and do their little journey together.
Okay. Yeah, I like those two together. It's fun watching them try and piece everything together. You get the other officer that's in their way.
Fuches.
Yeah, it was. Well, Fuches was the other guy who was kind of an idiot. It
was Fuches. Darn it!
Everybody keeps telling Fuches to shut up, kind of like Donnie from
Shut Up.
Lebowski.
Yeah.
The jerk cop, the one that was always terrible.
You always got to have a jerk cop in these movies.
He remind me of a cross between the principal from Ferris Bueller.
Okay, Ed Rooney.
And the what?
Ed Rooney.
Oh, was that his name?
That was the character's name, yeah.
Oh, okay. And the EPA guy from Ghostbusters. Like if those two got together and had a baby, it'd be this guy.
Yeah, no, it's just funny to me. There's always got to be that one kind of cop in any type of movie or show. It's just
Somebody
funny.
who's antagonizing for like no
Yeah.
reason.
It's just, yeah, there's always got to be someone that's talking about how ridiculous his ideals are. And then, of course, he's going to end up being right. But it was kind of, again, a bummer. It's like, it's guys like that in these movies you want to see, get, if not killed, at least humbled a little bit. And they didn't do that with him. They build up some of these characters. I said this before with The Howling, or what was it, The Howling? What were we talking about? Was it Big Lebowski? Yeah, the jerk cop in that movie. That it's like I was saying how, you kind of wish, they set these guys up and then you want to see them like kind of get something, happen to them,
Like,
but they never do.
He kind of got a little bit of comeuppance when he was reassigned.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, the chief, or the sergeant, the chief. Yeah, he decides to let Faraday do his thing, but that's about it,
So they end up going to, after, there's a whole bunch of scenes where she's going around killing more guys. There's the one where she met him at the bar, and it's kind of funny. He was celebrating some kind of business trip. He's at the bar drinking a little bit. Was he on the phone with his wife?
I wondered that very same thing. If it was supposed to be, they didn't emphasize it enough. I mean, maybe it was just, the boss back in whatever state he's from, like, good job on the sale,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the conversation. I feel almost like it's okay, honey. I'll see you when I get home or whatever. And then
I don't remember that per se. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Here comes Cynthia Mora as the deer woman. Just sit next to him and smile and nod.
Yeah,
like I got the impression almost like she didn't really even understand exactly what he was saying. She just knew what she had to do to get him alone with her. Like she's just nodding because that's what she does. Not that she actually understood what he was saying. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I do understand what you're saying. I'm kind of curious within the folklore if it's more established. I wonder why she has sex with him, right? In the folklore, right? At least that's what he says.
Well, it's kind of like a seductive thing. Like I lure you here. That's how you lure a man with sex, I thought, basically. See, I don't think she actually does.
Okay, see, I thought they were saying that she actually did that, which I was going to say wasn't make really sense. Why not just trap them?
They point out several times that the men died in a state of arousal, but I don't think that they actually do anything. I think as soon as she reveals her legs, she tramples them, basically.
Okay.
And I think I would probably fall for it. If she walked up to me and she's like, "Come on over here," I'd be like, "Uh huh." Yeah, she's a decent looking girl.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
No, you're not allowed to notice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they end up at the Indian reservation and they go to the casino there. Have you ever been to just a casino at all?
The only time was Katrina once. There was this band that she liked, and they were playing like a small like acoustic set, and they were doing it at one of our casinos here in Detroit. And I had never been prior to that, so I literally went with her just to see this band. So that's the end of my story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was your experience like inside the casino? Noisy, right?
Well, it was early morning, and it's a Detroit casino, so nothing obviously probably like a Vegas casino, but I was very, I'd seen obviously stuff like that in CSI, but I never set foot. It was kind of interesting, it's like everything you know it to be, but then also kind of different to actually see one first thing.
It's almost neat in a way. It kind of reminds me of like an arcade for adults.
Yeah.
Just all the noises and bells and whistles going off, and then you have everybody playing games. We have an Indian casino to north of us in Mount Pleasant, Soaring Eagle Casino.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that. Then
I went there when I was 18.
Okay.
And I even lost $40. But because they have their own sets of rules there. You can gamble when you're 18.
Didn't you used to work in a casino?
I did. I worked at Motor City Casino.
Okay. How long ago was that?
It's around 2004-ish.
Okay.
2003, maybe.
What'd you do there?
It was a blackjack dealer.
Okay.
I did not like it.
No.
It paid all right, but you're constantly, you have to sit there. You can't look around or anything. You have to stay focused on your table.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you have a problem, you can't turn around. You just got to stand there with your hand raised. And then you're counting all night. So your head turns to mush.
Okay.
Like you're just doing math all night. So your brain turns to mush. And sometimes people were pretty cool, but most of the time they were drunk and angry and swearing at you and blowing smoke in your face.
Did you have to do like a math test to get that job?
Yeah, I had to go to school for like a month.
Really? Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Interesting.
Like dealer school, where they teach you, what you're supposed to do and like really drill stuff into you.
Okay.
So anyway, went up to Soaring Eagle Casino when I was 18, not to gamble, although I did for a minute, it was $40, big deal. But I went with my buddy Chris. We went to go see Gallagher, who was performing there.
Okay.
The comedian.
Yep.
And that was pretty cool. So I've been up to an Indian casino. It's pretty much the same as the regular casino.
Right.
Okay. So the other cop, Officer Reid, he decides he wants to come back up there later. Faraday turns him down. Oh, let's back it up just a little bit. The stabbing scene. What did you think of that?
No, that was a pretty good scene.
So this guy jumps out at him.
Yeah.
Give me your wallet.
Mhm.
And he's already in a bad mood. Faraday is.
Yeah.
So he's like, don't you know not to mug a cop? And
the guy pulls the knife out at him.
He picked up the knife and then stabbed the guy.
Yeah. No, that was pretty good.
And then later on, they referenced it.
Yeah, that was probably the funniest scene to me, and maybe even the best scene. Yeah.
So the dear woman ends up meeting up with Officer Reid, and he takes her home.
Right.
Faraday wants to talk to him for something, so he calls his house, and he's like, I got a woman over here, man. I can't talk to you right now.
Yeah.
Did you get a look at her feet? What? Did you see her feet?
Right.
And then he realizes, whoops, I made a huge mistake.
Which, to back up that, the Indian from the casino explains to them that the deer woman's body would be like a woman from the waist up, but a deer from the waist down, legs and feet. I didn't realize that because I watched it twice. When I went back, I did watch to see, because I didn't remember them ever showing her from her legs or her feet. But when they do show it, yeah, she's covered completely, like a long skirt, like to the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't look abnormal. It doesn't look like they're trying to hide anything with it, because sometimes you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
Like, they're hiding this portion of something. Obviously, it's going to be a reveal later.
Yeah.
But you didn't really think about it. Although when she walks around, you can hear a clickety clack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that then.
It might not be till after they reveal her feet, but
I mean, yeah, if they had done that earlier, you could maybe say that was just her shoes, heels, perhaps.
I guess it was kind of noisy in some of those other areas where she was too. And then she was on carpet other times. But anyway,
so yeah, did you look at her feet?
and you know what? Before, even Faraday had the idea, before they had the legend of the deer woman explained to them, he was talking about how there's this spider that looks like an ant. Is that what he was saying?
Yeah, I looked it up. A spider that looks like an ant.
So it can trick its prey into feeling safe around it, and then pow, it gets you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of another way of explaining the deer woman. Like, it's just something that takes on the form of a human in order to trick people to get them.
Right. No, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a cool analogy.
Yeah. So Officer Jacob Reid takes the deer woman home. She tramples him just before Dwight gets there.
But if you remember, she doesn't pulverize him.
Well, I don't think she had time.
No, you're right. I guess she wasn't. She was still there.
Yeah.
She's in the room.
Shot her, and he's like, what did I do? He was so upset that he had shot this woman. Because she looked like such a normal woman that even at first he was like, oh, crap. I shot her.
But didn't they show where he actually like looks at the feet there? And I think she kicks him, right? She kicks him across the room and he hits the wall.
I guess they kind of leave it open to maybe Reid was still alive, but just injured.
Yeah, they never go back to that.
But he starts chasing her down because he lifts up her skirt, sees her deer legs, and she kicks him across the room. Right. Which looked like that would have hurt pretty bad. He got kicked really hard.
Not just that, but yeah, hitting the wall, then falling again. Like, yeah, I mean, he got up pretty quick, but they did make it. I will say they didn't make him like, where, some of those old action movies where people are able to fall off great heights and just get up and, hobble away. Like,
yeah, he looked like
he was struggling. Yeah.
So he starts chasing her down. He even gets in his car to chase her. And then all these deer come out while he's on the road and get in his way. He has to shoot them all.
See, what happens is she gets away from him. And yeah, there's all these deer, like almost like they're distracting him. They give her time to get away. It's not until he shoots one that she comes back. Like, that made her angry.
Well, I think she was still running away, but he caught up with her at that point.
See, I'm pretty sure it was when he shot one. They show her like in the woods, and like she hears the gunshot, and then she
didn't turn
turns
around. Like, she turned around and looked in that direction, and like she's angry.
Right, like she was angry, and then next thing you know, she's back, and that's when
he was driving his car. She wasn't coming back for him. He just caught up to her.
Oh, okay. I thought
again.
No,
because remember he was going really fast, and he just slammed into her, pinning her between the car and the tree.
Yeah, I thought that was after she came back. But yeah, he smashes her in between a tree and his car.
And that looked pretty brutal.
Yeah, but doesn't she just disappear or something?
Like just a little bit of blood in her mouth, and he's like trying to crush her with the car still. And she ends up like picking it up or something and then dropping it and then disappearing. Which
begs the question, why don't she just disappear when she needs to get away? Like, why even, what was the whole running part over,
I don't know. Who knows what motivations, whatever that thing had, were exactly.
I guess, but I'm saying from a writing standpoint, anyway. I thought it was funny that she is bringing Reid good luck while he's still betting money.
He starts winning at the casino.
Right. Everything, if he would ask her like, oh, should I play, whatever, and she would nod, he would get good luck. I actually thought they should have pushed that a little more of that, basically. What is that? It's like, do you remember what was the movie with, it was about this little demon thing, and you would burn what you wanted and it would make it happen, but then later it would turn to crap?
No.
It's so like literally they somehow they catch this little like demon, and I can't remember how they figure out, but basically you have to like it can grant you wishes essentially. So like at one point like they have it in this is a movie, and they like have like $100 bill or 20, I don't know what it was, and they like he's like, we want more of these, and he lights it on fire, and then the demon basically gives them hundreds or thousands or whatever of dollars, but eventually it wears off and actually turns to poop. So it's supposed to be funny. They're at this restaurant and he's like pulling out money, and he's like gonna leave the waiter a nice tip. It's like a really fancy restaurant, and like he goes to throw it down the table, and you hear this like splat because it had turned to poop.
It's literally poop.
Literally poop. Anyway, what I'm getting at all this to say is that I thought it would have been interesting if they would have said like basically how that's part of what she does. Like she brings good fortune to these guys and then ultimately kills them. They only did it with Reid with that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's just a side note.
Okay. So anyway, that pretty much brings us to the end of the movie. It's a short movie. I believe it's just under an hour long.
It's like 55 minutes, I think.
Yeah. I think it's worth checking out if you can find it. I think if you look on Daily Motion, you can actually find it on there.
Okay.
When I looked for another episode that I really liked, they had it on Daily Motion, but like it was all like dubbed with foreign languages. So
gotcha.
I couldn't find a good version of it. But Dear Woman is on there. What did you think?
Well, I liked some things they did, although it was really silly. I liked the line where they reference American Werewolf in London. I thought that was kind of a cool little touch. They try to add some drama, but I do feel like it was a little too late, the character development, when they're sitting in the casino, I think, telling you about his partner. I feel like it was just a little too late on that. It just didn't do anything for me by that point. I also found it ridiculous that anyone could think that he willingly shot through a guy to get to his victim being his partner. I thought that was kind of ridiculous.
I don't know if everybody thought that. He said some people
he said some people. Yeah. I just find it funny that anyone could think of that. I do think the movie picked up once you get to the casino scene. It kind of dragged a little for me, but once you get to the casino scene to the end, I actually thought it improved. But overall, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. It was a little too slapstick for my taste. The acting, the humor weren't my cup of tea per se. Like I said, the part I found most funny was the line referencing, let's find this guy who says he was attacked by a cop with a knife. I do think the folklore was very interesting. And I wonder if, like you said, they did write this themselves.
Yeah. I
wonder if perhaps it was thought that the ideal of a deer woman was so silly and ridiculous that they didn't try to take it seriously. They just played it as let's just make it as ridiculous as possible. Like maybe they thought people wouldn't go for it if they tried to play it a little more serious. But I think they actually could have done it a little more, just, I know it sounds silly, a deer woman, but I think it could have worked if they tried to do a little more of it. That could have been because maybe it was just a lower budget. It's technically a TV episode or a made for TV movie. They couldn't throw a lot into it, but it kind of, in a way, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy or Ant-Man. They're kind of silly, but there is somehow they make it work with that silliness. They know when to play it for laughs, but there's still like, I don't know, some heavier stuff going on.
I think that may have been part of the reason for the when he's laying in bed thinking about the case and coming up with all those silly scenarios.
Yeah.
They take it as silly as it could be.
Right.
So that way, even though the story is silly, now when we get back to what's happening in the story, it seems more real.
Yeah. Personally, here's a thought I had. Now, this is probably ridiculous on my part, but I think they should have made it darker, a little more serious. I don't mind some laughs because it is, like I said, an outrageous idea. I had this thought that what if, they show his wife, the picture of his wife early on when he looks at it. I was thinking it'd been kind of cool if they show him looking at the picture, but you don't see it. And that maybe, now bear with me here, maybe you find out that his wife was the deer woman. Hold on. She fell in love with him for real. So she was actually decided to spare him. But so she actually stayed with him for a little while and actually put all that aside. But this is also, bear in mind, this is also before I knew she was actually going to have the legs of a deer. So I thought she was literally human or human looking. But basically that his wife was killing men, finds him, was going to kill him, falls in love with him for real. But then basically like the spirit world or whatever, because she disobeyed or, went against what she was set to do, she was pulled back in to them to do what she was made to do. Again, probably a little outrageous, but hey, this whole thing is outrageous. But I thought it would have been interesting if when he finally sees her face and we as the audience see her face, he realized, oh, Deborah, or whatever. And then she's gone.
I guess, they could have maybe worked something like that in. I don't know how you would convey all that information in an hour.
Well, here was my thought. If you had never seen the wife's portrait on his desk or whatever, this would work. So, okay, we see her face, but maybe he doesn't see her face until the very end. And then he says her, like maybe he's going to shoot her and she turns around, he sees her face and he looks like shocked and horrified and he lets her go. And as an audience, we're thinking, well, what the crap? Why didn't he shoot her? And then they show like he maybe gets fired. Yeah, he gets fired from his job and they're like, pack up your stuff. You're out of here. You let this murderer go. And as he's packing up his belongings, he picks up a picture from his wedding day and you see that it's her. That's how you could have done it. So you could see her face, but we would not be able to see the wife's face.
I like that you're trying to tie the ending all together in with like the rest of the movie.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that would have worked exactly, but I like the way you're thinking.
Okay.
You know what? You're actually reminding me of, with what you're saying, one of the stories from Tales from the Dark Side.
I knew it. I knew you were going to bring that around. Yes, the gargoyle one. I actually wrote that down in my notes. Yes, it is a little bit like the Tales from the Dark Side. The Vow is what it's called.
That was a good one. Maybe we'll do that at some point too.
Yeah.
But for now, we'll just keep talking about Deer Woman. I like Deer Woman. I like that it was based on Native American legend, and then I looked it up, and it's an actual legend.
Yeah. Oh, I had no doubt that it was a real thing.
I tried to figure out which tribe it would have been, and I don't think any of the tribes that were, because I think they were in the Seattle area or not too far from Seattle, and none of the tribes up there had that legend, or at least from what I looked at. So. I guess they just adapted it to fit their story. But
I don't think if they would have made it up completely, I don't think they would have made it a deer woman if it hadn't been real folklore. I think they would have made it something scarier or something more threatening sounding.
Yeah, and then I think that was part of the charm of the movie. Like, what, deer woman? But then they created this story around it. I'm like, okay. So the legend, the way they represented it was pretty accurate. Like, it was supposed to be a spirit that lures people around, and it's like a deer spirit disguised as a woman. So
yeah.
That was just kind of a neat idea for them to do it, like that kind of take on it. I like that it wasn't too serious, that it knew that it was going to be a silly thing to try and work with, so they just kind of went with it. I enjoyed the comedy. I thought it was funny. I love it, even though the acting was strange. I don't know if I'd call it bad necessarily. It was just like some of the acting was just strange, and I actually kind of liked that it was strange. There were parts where maybe it seemed to drag a tiny bit, like it could have been tuned up a little more.
Okay.
But for the most part, I enjoy it. I'm going to give it a B.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I've come to expect that, especially with our Halloween movie, since you are the Halloween guy, that you're going to probably rate everything much higher than I am. So this should be no surprise. It's probably a little boring for anyone that's actually listening. But no, there's a lot of stuff too that even though it's not my cup of tea, I can kind of look at it and be like, this was fun, or this was an interesting concept, or whatever. I do think that this is an interesting concept. And I think if they would have tried a little harder for something more, maybe it would have been better for me. But I did not enjoy the movie. It's like part of me feels bad, but I wrote down an F. Because it was just like, oh my, I remember the first time watching this, I was just like, what is going on here? Especially when they got to that dream sequence scene, and then they cut to another one. I was like, another one, and then they cut to another. I was like, seriously, three of them? When they look out the window and there's actually like a little deer, it was like one of those, it looks like one of those things that hunters use. They'll set it out there and they practice, shooting arrows at it or something.
It reminded me of one of those porcelain figures of the kids with the big heads and big eyes.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like that we have a different,
So you're giving it an F.
Things. I think I'm gonna have to give it an F. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Brandon. I'm sorry.
You've just listened to the final
I'm sorry.
episode.
Well, hey, we ended up on 50, so at least we got a nice round number.
Yeah. So the next two movies were your picks. Those were my two. The Howling and Dear Woman.
Yep.
Next one we're doing is what?
Well, we haven't really decided which one we want to release next. It doesn't matter to me.
In the Mouth of Madness.
In the Mouth of Madness. Yep.
All right. Well, cool. We'll see you next time on the podcast.
Yep.
Thank you for
Thanks
listening.
for tuning in.
Safe and scary Halloween.
All right. Picking your nose?
No. I was waiting for you to say something.
Buddy.